Multiple outlets are reporting that President Trump's DOJ has fired former Jeffrey Epstein prosecutor Maurene Comey.
Maurene Comey is a former FBI director, James Comey's daughter. She also handled the Ghislaine Maxwell and Diddy cases.
Now, the reason for her purported firing is unclear. Earlier this week, Trump name-dropped James Comey when discussing the Epstein Files. Let's listen.
These files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden information. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
Meanwhile, in the House, Congressman Thomas Massie and Khanna are leading an effort to force a vote on the Epstein Files. The pair's legislation would require Attorney General Pam Bondi to make all unclassified documents, investigative material records, and communications that are linked to Epstein publicly available within 30 days of the bill passing. So far, 6 Republicans appear to be on board with the bill. This is notable because Massie and Khanna are vowing to start a discharge petition, which, if the majority of the House agrees to, will bypass House leadership and force a vote.
Trump blasted, quote, stupid Republicans who are falling for what he's calling now the Epstein hoax. Let's watch.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. The sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Stupid people. I guess
you know
that includes us, because we also wanted the Epstein.
You know what? That's not right. If somebody calls you out, now they're stupid, low IQ, that's the MO. But that's the standard. We're used to that. I think, I love it. I love it. We finally have something bipartisan. Now, I'm sad that it had to be this instance.
Yeah,
because
you love that Trump and Republicans
are fighting about this. No, I love that there are bipartisan measures to get something that Robby and I are both so deeply interested in. I would love to know what happened here. There are serious implications to what Epstein did, and I want to know. But I think also that Trump is saying firmly he is not letting go of Pam Bondi. He is riding to the end of the world with her for some reason. And so he just found a fall guy, which was Comey's daughter. And I guess we'll hear more details
bonding with
about
Bondi.
That. Yeah, he's bonding. They're locked in. Yeah. But I think, what we have to think about in saying the story over and over again is that there is like an irreparable amount of damage that has been caused to all the women and victims that are attached to Epstein. And the more that we keep saying the story, and not us, but overall, like people are like,
who are they? We want to know who they are.
Well, that's part of the thing. I do believe strongly that I like the bipartisan effort. Now that I'm roped into the story, I'm interested in seeing what the steps are, even if part of it is petty because I like the infighting, but it still is. I am interested in that happening. But I do think that the women and the girls should be protected now because they went through and lived through traumatic experiences. And part of releasing the victims' names, not outing the victims. So we need to release maybe who was involved, but make sure that we protect the people that do not want to be a part of this circus.
Well, and that is the argument, although I appreciate what Khanna and Thomas Massie are doing, the argument against forcing disclosure as a legislative package. I was seeing this, I haven't verified this myself, but Tim Pool, for instance, was saying the reason you shouldn't do, and he's for disclosure, the reason you shouldn't do it as a legislative effort is that, well, they can't, would that compel them to release, presumably some of the Epstein Files is what Bondi has claimed, and what we suspect to be true, is that in that is what's called child sexual abuse material or underage abuse material that we don't want, pornographic photos and videos of underage people or anyone against their will released. Right. So we can't obligate or shouldn't obligate the government to do that. It might actually be illegal for them to do that. As you said, if people want privacy, they want privacy. Of course, that cuts against the idea of the whole thing. And I don't like then it gets into a little bit of a Me Too overreach situation where we are being told there's all this abuse and all these rich and powerful abusers and all these victims, but we can't give you any more information about that. You just have to trust us. Us being, I guess I didn't even know, just presumptions about it, which is not satisfying at all to me.
The thing that everyone's calling for is this list. So the list would be the names of the rich and powerful people in government or in business that were attached to the potential abuse of young girls. And so that is what you want to release.
But what if they were...
But we don't need to see the release of the names. If there are actually proof that there are victims' names and they're, vetted material, that's called just redacting information that's not necessary to the case. If we see information
but then, frankly, it's not fair to the... I am, in favor of due process and the presumption of innocence, so... this honestly does speak to something Trump said about this. Just because you're accused, Alan Dershowitz, the attorney for Jeffrey Epstein, was accused, but the woman who accused him, Virginia Giuffre, she's now deceased, she recanted that accusation. So she admits it was a false accusation. So if somebody's name is in there and then it was substantiated by law enforcement, okay. If it's just somebody's name is in there because they were accused by someone, well then,
well,
I want to know who accused them and why, and so we can kind of cross-examine in the public square at least that person, or else it's not fair.
Access to these files, I'm
This is
assuming
pathologically
that
unfair.
this list wouldn't just be a list and be done with it. You can't prosecute someone because
Right.
a powerful person wrote down your name on paper or in their computer.
Right.
I think the attachment would be the list, and then a list of information that attaches you to, setting things up alongside Epstein that would be illegal behavior.
I mean, the list
So I
is
think
not even a
that-
list. It's just thousands of files by law enforcement people about what they know. So there will be. Trump is right about that. There will be names in there, and you won't go, oh my God, it's whoever, famous CEO or politician, whoever. But they were just like they traveled with Epstein. I don't know. This makes it sound like I'm thinking that I'm agreeing with Epstein with Trump that it's a nothing burger. I don't think that.
Well, I think that's the problem. The nothing to see here approach is not working. The problem is not going away. But all I thought about last night was just like, okay, how can we push for this? And it can be bipartisan. And it's something that I do appreciate that they're moving forward with, but also consider that there are people that actually want nothing to do with this anymore and have moved forward with their lives. And we're making them relive this constantly when it's kind of become into some, I don't know, like it's past the point of the actual headline and now has become this back and forth that like has a life of its own. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what we would do with all the information and what exact information would be satisfiable, but also think that it is a good thing that there are people working together in Congress. Unfortunately, this is the issue, but I'm happy that they're working together.
I don't know. It's starting to remind me of, maybe I am genuinely changing my mind about this. It's starting to remind me a little bit. Do you remember the satanic daycare abuse panic thing? Do you know this thing from the 80s, I think? There was this
Oh my gosh.
totally perpetrated media hoax that that kids in daycares were being sexually abused and by a satanic cult, and this was in all these daycare centers, and it was part of the recovered memory movement. Because what happens if you being a psychiatrist or law enforcement, you can interview a child for a long period of time and get them to say anything, because children basically want to give you the answer you want. I mean, that's generally just how interrogation works. So people were falsely accused. People went to prison for years and years and years for abusing children as part of this insane cult. It was all made up. It was all based in a incorrect view of psychiatry. Later, all the convictions have gotten thrown out or exonerated over time. It was a moral panic, a great example of a moral panic, like the real Salem witch trials type thing. I don't know.
But I mean, the goal
Feeling echoes of this
is
here.
the goal just to release it, and then are we trying to prosecute every single person that may be anywhere near the
I don't think
document?
we're trying to do anything anymore.
Yeah, I think Trump could have got ahead of this by just releasing more information. It could have been a little speck just to give people something. Like, this is all we got.
All I really
But
want to
the fact
know,
that he's like, nothing to see here. I don't know why you're so obsessed with this. That is just fueling the fire.
all I want to really know now, I mean, obviously, if there are other people, important people who were accused credibly, I want to know. And I want to know why Jeffrey Epstein got such a lenient deal the first time around, why he was able to resume his association action in either U.S. or Israel or someone else. That's what I want to know. The rest of it, I don't know. And I don't even think we're going to get that. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem is teasing news that does make me quite happy. You can probably guess what it is, but we'll discuss it next.